What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 96 of Nintendo Noise, Flipscreen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined today for the second week in a row by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Kenny Hicks.
What it do? Episode 96, the opposite of nice.
I guess this is very nice. Because
this is very nice.
I got to tell you, I think it's going to be a very nice episode because I'm flying high right now, bud. I'm here with my oldest friend in podcasting. I've got an S-tier Nintendo Direct to talk about right now. It's like, what more could you ask for on such a fine day?
Yo, it was great because I was messaging yesterday. I was like, oh, what do you want to talk about? Then Nintendo said Nintendo Direct tomorrow. I was like, yo, bet.
It's like they just handed it to us. I mean, like Steve picked a heck of a week to go on vacation, because, man, I mean, not only do we get some big announcements here, we got some stuff that impacts some of our predictions for the year. It's a banger of a Direct ahead of us now. So I'm ready to just jump right into it because I'm not trying to bury the lead. I think this was an S-tier Direct. I don't think that there's much conversation to be had. I think if you don't agree that it's an S and you think it's anything less than an A, wipe yourself off because you must already be dead. I don't know.
It's like I had a little bit of everything. Solid surprises, games that are coming out this year, in a couple of months even,
that are coming out
surprise
this year.
Games
that's crazy
that are coming out this game. Like, after waiting years for things like the Breath of the Wild sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, after waiting and still not hearing jack about Metroid, it is super refreshing to get games that are announced and not just coming out this year, but coming out in a couple of months. Like, Nintendo has been cooking. Like, we were kind of like bullish last week, but they've been cooking.
Yeah, and it's like we'll start things off here, right? Like, obviously, I think the big announcement of the show, of many, right? Because there were a lot of good announcements here, is, of course, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, right? Brand new 2D Mario game, the first new style for a 2D Mario game since the new Super Mario Brothers series brought it back, and that was all the way back on the DS. That was like 2005? 6 maybe?
Yo, it's been a while. I know some people were predicting a 3D Mario game, like a sequel to Odyssey or something like that. But the thing is, 3D isn't always necessarily better. It's different.
No,
right?
It's not. Right? Absolutely not. 2D Mario has absolutely is a pillar in its own right. And what a lot of people I don't think realize is generally it sells better too.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of the new Super Mario Brothers games are some of the highest selling Mario games of the last, several generations.
Yeah, no, I did not know that. And just like, listen, I'm telling you straight up, Elephant Mario is going to be the meme of the year, like straight up. And if he turns into an elephant, what else is he going to turn into? Can we get T-Rex Mario back, please?
Like, there's just so much new stuff there, right? Like, it's really crazy, and like, I think the fact that this is a game that we hadn't seen, got the announcement, it's imminent, and it's like such a dynamic shift is like really exciting. Like this is, I think, kind of the change that we've been waiting for. And like wanting to get something fresh, wanting to get that shot in the arm for, 2D Mario, because as much as like a lot of the new Super Mario Brothers games have been great, it's tired at this point, and
yeah, this time they're doing something real different, real unique, this is Mario, if you know what I mean. I have no other way of putting it. It just seems like it's full of like joy and light, and the platforming based on the trailer looks super, super tight as always.
And like, right? And like a lot of new, like you said, you pointed out the new powers, but like new platforming gimmicks and stuff. Like there's like a thing of him like sliding down like a rail, swimming up in a waterfall and stuff like that. And then of course like all of these, these crazy I forget what they're called. I guess they're called like wonder
tubes,
flowers,
or wonder, or
what the things that like every time he gets them, and then it's like making all of the environments go crazy, right? Like when he gets the wonder flowers.
Like and the other thing that I want to point out with this game is that the music just it reminds me of something out of like Katamari Damacy a little bit. You know what I mean? And I mean that as an absolute compliment because I love the Katamari Damacy soundtrack. It just gives like that feeling of just like joy. And between this and the Mario movie. And we'll touch upon this in a little bit. The Mario RPG remake. Um, we're Mario fans are eating well this year. Mario fans are eating real well.
Seriously, I mean, we had a comment here from Olaf from the Discord who said, "How in the world did we get 6 Mario announcements in one direct when they had a Mario reel?" And they said after that, "Okay, that's all." It's like literally they had multiple breaks where it's like, here's just a ton of Mario stuff, right? And then we still get this at the end. Crazy.
You see, when they announced the direct yesterday, they said, "Oh, more information on Pikmin 4 plus other things coming out this year." I was like, "Okay, we might get one or two surprises." Then Nintendo just like, "Nah."
That's the thing. When they said 40 minutes, I thought it was going to be a big direct, but like this is the type of announcement I just didn't think they were going to be ready to show us yet. We've been talking all year about how it's like they don't need to show this stuff. They don't need to release more this year. You know, they must be waiting for the next console, but like clearly they had more bullets in the chamber, man.
So like,
Um
it wouldn't surprise me if this slate is the last big push of first party Nintendo games, right?
I
Like, I can't imagine them doing too much more with the Switch beyond this. But then again, I was wrong last week, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? Is like at this point, I feel like never say never because they constantly have done things that I didn't think made sense this generation. Um, like I literally predicted that this Mario game was not going to come out, right? So like obviously, you know they're certainly able to surprise us. But we actually got a question I'm going to pull from the question block here. This one comes from Asobi, one of our Patreon producers, who wrote in and said, "After this direct, are you more confident about a new console in 2024 or less confident?" And
Ooh,
I think it's such an interesting question because you said it right. And like my knee jerk reaction is surely this must be the last push, right? But in the same breath, they told us about 2 games that are coming out on the Switch next year, right? The Luigi's Mansion, those I forget,
remaster.
New Moon, yeah, the second one.
Yeah.
That's getting the remaster, and then the new Princess Peach game, which they only showed us like a little bit of, but those are both new projects that we heard about that are coming out next year. We know Metroid Prime 4 is still in development and has to get shown at some point. Like, I, I don't know. Like, the idea of a new console in 2024, I think, is an interesting question. Because do I think we'll get the new console announced in 2024? I feel like we must. The idea that we're not going to get it announced 8 years into this console's life cycle seems
It would be
impossible.
absurd.
But, right, think about this, Ken. They said that they saw the Nintendo Switch having a 10-year life cycle, right? We're already 7 years in. Next year would be 8 years. So say they reveal the next console next year, and then it comes out the following year. That would be the 9th year of Nintendo Switch, and then it would only need to have one crossover year with whatever the new hardware is to hit the 10-year life cycle that they were talking about. It's not,
You
I don't know.
see, I feel like with Nintendo, though, when they say things like that, what they say and what they actually do are two different things. Like, remember when the DS came out and they said the DS was going to be side by side with the GBA,
Yeah,
and
they're
they'll
like, oh, it's
both be
part of the
portable
Nintendo
pillars?
family of consoles. The Game Boy Advance is not going anywhere. But what they mean by that is we're going to support it for like a year or two until the new one's popped off. And they did the same thing with the 3DS, right? But the
Exactly.
interesting thing is with the Switch, you got to think we're going to get a Switch 2, though, right? Like, it not necessarily a name, but whatever the next console is going to be another version of the Switch, which
It
is
has to
different,
be.
right? That's a different thing than being like, we're getting everyone to move over to a totally new console. And I think they're going to want to make it seem like more of the PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 5 jump, or like, of course you'll buy the next one and move over because it's the same thing and you keep your library, but the games run better and there's new stuff. And it's, like, I think they want that cohesion here because the Switch has been so successful. The branding is really strong. They want to keep that market intact.
Yeah, and not for nothing. Prior to the Switch, there's always been a home Nintendo console and a portable Nintendo console. You know what I mean? Like that, the Game Boy Advance, and then they had the GameCube, the DS, and the Wii, Wii U, and 3DS. You know what I mean? With the Switch, like they kind of merged those two together, so they have to keep that going, and that's part of the reason why the Switch is so successful. Even when the console sales kind of lagged behind, the handhelds always killed it. You know what I mean? Even the 3DS started off a little bumpy, but then it killed it.
Yeah, and I
So I
mean,
feel like what?
the point you made about how they brought that together, it made it so much easier to get games out on Switch because you have all those resources towards one device instead of across two.
Exactly. But now that makes me curious, like how much are they going to innovate with the Switch 2 under the guise that it has to be portable
I
now?
don't think they
Because they can't go
will.
back. Yeah, they can't go back to the two console pillar anymore. Like they can't go in reverse. And in that regard, 7 going on 8 years into the console, um, it wouldn't surprise me if the Peach game comes out earlier next year, and the Luigi game is just like a remaster. It's like a remake of the
Right.
DS game, right? Um, so like that coming out early to mid next year, them having an announcement announcing backwards compatibility, building up hype to have a launch in like September, leading into the holiday season. Like it's kind of too perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To pass up. And it wouldn't. And also, now that Metroid 4 has been in development, Prime 4 has been in development for so long. They literally started development, shelved everything halfway through, hired the original studio back, and basically started from square one.
Yeah.
And with that much development time, would it be smart to release it on last year's console, or use it to hype up the new one as a launch game,
I
similar to how we got Breath of the Wild at launch?
I
You know what
think
I
it
mean?
I think it's going to be like a cross-gen thing like that where it comes out it's like the last game on Switch and the first game on Switch too.
Yeah, and the
It's just
Switch
like
2 would
Breath of
be
the
the
Wild,
definitive
right? Or
version.
like Twilight Princess before it.
Exactly. Yeah, so like all Nintendo has to do is make the next Switch backwards compatible, and then they win. It's just like they just have to keep the gravy train going. Give me a HD screen,
Yeah.
and we'll eat that up.
That's
We'll
the
eat that
thing
up.
is
But
like
I
I don't think you need to do anything beyond just making it a slightly more powerful system with like more functionality.
and like fix the Joy-Con drift. That's it. Like
Yep.
make a better controller. The end.
Joy-Cons 2.0
Yeah.
for sure.
So I would say to answer the initial question here, I would say I'm more confident because the stuff that they announced is coming out this year, and the things that are coming out next year are probably going to be like not multi-platform, but
Like
smaller,
cross-gen.
if you will. Yeah, like we have one remake and we have a Peach game coming out next year. You know
I
what I
mean, that's
mean?
the thing though. The Peach game could be if that comes out late next year, that could be like a bigger release that is like a simul release as well too, right? Because like you think about you mentioned the Mario movie, right? Like I think between that and this, like I feel like this is probably like them making an effort now to like give Peach her own
her
series
own.
in the same way that like Luigi's got Luigi's Mansion, Wario's got WarioWare, right? Like they even have Captain Toad, right? Like we only
Yeah, it's
got
fair.
Super Princess Peach on the DS like way back in the day, and that obviously never, turned into like a
Really took off.
yeah. And I think now like the character has more identity than she had before because like in the movie she's a co-lead, not uh, a damsel in distress.
Damsel in distress. Oh my
Exactly.
god, Jinx. Oh my
Great
man.
minds, great minds.
But no, until I see more gameplay, because they really just showed like a brief teaser. It's hard to say one way or another with Princess Peach. I know Nintendo doesn't do anything without reason. And whatever they do with Peach, I'm sure will be unique, something they haven't done before. And I'm looking forward to it. But short term, Mario Bros. Wonder, that fire, and also Daisy's in that game. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
Daisy's back, baby.
That was really cool. I mean, I don't, to my knowledge, right? Like I don't think she's ever been playable in anything that wasn't a sports game, right? So that's a really cool addition for sure.
Like Smash Brothers.
As a skin, yeah.
Yeah, Echo Fighter. But
Right, of course.
digress.
I forgot she
I
became
can go
an
into
Echo
a whole
Fighter.
conversation about that. Um, but
But yeah, I mean, we've got Mario, Luigi, Toad, Peach, Daisy, and Yoshi. We're all shown as playable characters. So really pretty deep roster too.
yeah, no, 4-player co-op. We're in there. We have to set up a stream for that one for sure. That'd be a fun one to play together.
Yeah,
And it gives me an
absolutely.
excuse to visit you in Philly.
Yo, please, I would love that. Yeah, man. I mean, I think it's easy to say that this is the announcement of the show, right? But like, this is going to be, I think, disruptive in the conversation for Game of the Year later this year. Like, this is a game that could legit be a contender, and I don't think a lot of people will maybe think about it that way out of the gate because it's a 2D platformer. But like, It's Mario,
There are
baby.
there are so many good Game of the Year contenders this year. We got Mario, we got Zelda, and I'm just gonna assume Mario's gonna be up there, right? We got Resident Evil 4 remake, which is gas. Apparently, Final Fantasy 16 is up there too.
Right? Yeah,
Like
reviews just dropped
this,
for that today, and it's looking real good. We got
yeah,
Starfield
no,
later this year. We got Spider-Man 2 later this year. We got Diablo 4. We have a Forza Motorsport later this year. Those games are always like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Like,
we got Spider-Man, Just Dance 2024, baby.
what a year. What a time to be alive. I'll tell you what, man. Like, all jokes aside, I think there's a real good chance that this becomes a new contender for, like, best year in games history type thing.
Not for nothing. I'm trying to think of a better year in gaming. I feel like that can be like a whole podcast all in of
It
itself. Like we
is.
just
It
go through like
is.
the rest year by year. That'd be a fun one.
Let's
That'd be a
do
fun
it
one.
after this year.
Um,
I think, or like maybe as this year winds down, we should do that as an episode. That would be fun.
yeah, like end of the year review, if you will. But yeah, no, I'm gonna definitely put that in my notes here. But enough gushing over Mario. Now let's start to gush over Mario RPG.
Yeah, seriously. So that was another one because this was interesting because of course there was a rumor about there being a new 2D Mario in development like way back months ago that ended up coming to pass. But this was another one that had kind
I
of
didn't see it coming at all.
it wasn't that
Uh,
Mario RPG had leaked, but there was a leaker who claimed that there was going to be a direct this week, which obviously was correct, and said that in that direct they would show off I think what he had said or they had said was a new Mario title and then a remake of a Super Nintendo game. And a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, Earthbound." But Super Mario RPG is, I mean, that's also really hot.
Hey,
that is a great one.
That is fire. So I never played Super Mario RPG.
Me
right?
neither. I'm really excited to do it.
Yeah, I did love the Mario and Luigi RPGs on like the Game Boy Advance and the DS and whatnot. I love those. So this is a great time for me to like jump right back into it. Once again, coming out this year. Like that's crazy.
Crazy. Yeah, this one's coming out.
yeah,
Oh, and I don't know if we said it before, but it's October 20th. Super Mario Wonder.
October 20th.
Super Mario RPG is coming November 17th. So that's two unannounced Mario games revealed and coming out within the same year. Crazy. Totally
in
new
the next
ballgame.
5 months. Like it's crazy. And it's like for the longest time I thought the reason Super Mario RPG never made it to the Nintendo Switch Online subscription service was because maybe of like licensing difficulties with Square Enix or something like that. Because I think they technically own the rights to Geno.
They do. I
could be wrong about that.
No, I think
they
you're
do.
right.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. I've heard that that's the reason why you don't see it as much is that like Square has stake in it in a way that Nintendo doesn't just own it outright.
Yeah, but like apparently the reason they haven't released it is because they've been cooking a whole remake, and I love that for us. We're great.
I love this. I mean, because I'm right there with you. Like I've never played this one before. I've always wanted to, and just like really, I never took the plunge. And this looks great. I love the vibe and the look of it. And I think it's really cool that aside from the like, added like special attacks and like little like CG cutscene things that we are seeing, it feels like they really tried to just keep the exact same art style and just bring it into a more modern
Bring it
look
up to
rather
modern
than-
days.
Yeah, pixel art, right? Like as if it was made today, right?
Yeah.
But that same style, which I think is really a great choice because like it being such a classic, iconic game, like I like that they're trying to keep the spirit of it, but present it for a new audience.
Yeah, I just love the way Mario looks in this game.
I know he's so cute. He's so stout, Like all of them are like that too, though, right? Because like even like Peach is like that, where it's like, oh yeah, like why is she like so? I don't know, like they're like they almost have like Funko Pop proportions or something, right? Like it's like why your little bodies are so like big and your heads are so round.
Like the whole aesthetic of this game looks 10 out of 10. And it's like, oh man, I cannot wait to play this game. Yeah, but like, once again, another game coming out this year. So and the thing that I appreciate
insane,
about
dude, this fall is gonna be brutal.
Let's see. So yeah, no, you're right. I don't have enough money.
Yeah, I mean, like, please, I'm like, I feel like even if you have the budget, the time is going to just be such a challenge here because it's like, again, this is October, this is November. We already have Spider-Man is out in October. Starfield will have been out the month before. Nobody's finishing that in
No
September,
one.
right? Like, it's just I don't know. It's nuts. And
Is there such a thing as too much good stuff? No,
yes,
no.
there is. I mean,
Yeah.
there isn't, right? It's like what a privileged problem to have, but like there is a point where like you can't keep up, and it's like that sucks. It sucks when there's things because it's like it's one thing to have a year where you're like, oh man, was so busy. There were so many games that were for me. I didn't get to go try things. I didn't get to try things I wouldn't try normally, right? That's usually
Yeah.
the sign of a stacked year. But for me, I'm feeling like I don't even know if I'm going to be able to play the things that are like capital FM for me. Like these are my games, my genres, my franchises. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to touch them all.
I am literally. That's why I haven't touched Zelda yet. I'm just like prioritizing my different games here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean you got
But
it,
I
right?
would.
That's why I didn't play. That's why I haven't played Diablo or Star Wars yet.
I forgot about Star Wars. Oh my goodness.
Uh-huh.
It's that kind of year. It's that kind of year. Like it has never been a better time to be a gamer. And just a slight pivot and topic here. Uh, since we're on the RPG kick, we got a little bit more details, a little bit more views about the new Persona 5 Tactica game.
Yeah.
Which, as a Persona 5 simp, I'm looking forward to it.
Dude, me too. I mean, this is one of those things that it's like this couldn't be more for me, right? Like I love Persona 5 and I love tactical RPGs. I'm a huge fan of like Fire Emblem and like, the XCOM style games and stuff. I love it. Love it. So, I mean, I'm in. And
Oh wait,
I don't know
it
if you've
comes
seen
out the
this.
same day as Super Mario RPG.
No, it doesn't.
Oh.
No. Oh. Why would they even put this in the showcase? Like, how would you like to choose between these two exceptionally for you RPGs, Pete and Ken? How are you going to deal with this? I don't know. I'm just going to buy them both. I'm going to buy them both. We'll see what happens.
Oh man, I wish I didn't have to work.
I know. Did you?
Oh man,
Did you hear the? I don't know if it's confirmed. I just saw it. I think it's a rumor right now. But that both Akechi and oh my God, what's her name? The redhead from Royal.
Sumari.
Yeah. That they're both going to be in it as well.
I mean, based on because this is just a rumor. Like they have photos, so I'm pretty confident. Unless those are really well done fake mock-ups, that it's
Kasumi,
real.
that's her name.
And
yeah.
also, spoilers. I'll leave it at that. But oh, what was I about to say?
You got distracted. You got distracted thinking about Persona 5.
Oh yeah. So the guy who leaked the Persona 3 remake and the Tactica game and all this other stuff like a week and a half before it came out, like well in advance, along with a bunch of details about those games that later turned out to be true, leaked that they were going to be DLC characters, right?
Okay.
He didn't leak anything in terms of the story, but they did say that in an interview that was like translated. I forget who did the interview in Japan, but they said that this is a direct sequel to Persona 5 Royale, which is nice because if you look at Persona 5 Strikers, that was made alongside Royale.
That
so it's
me
a
out,
sequel.
Dude.
Yeah, so it's like a sequel, but they don't acknowledge anything of the stuff that they added in Royal. But with this one, it's like it's a direct sequel to that. And it wouldn't surprise me if they also introduced characters from Strikers into this one.
Here's the
and
my favorite thing about this, Ken, is that like Strikers, it has me excited because I get to spend more time with the Phantom Thieves. But unlike Strikers, it's actually a kind of game that is fun. So I'm very excited about that.
Did you beat Strikers? Or
I
no?
sure didn't because I hate Musos. I bought it and I was like, I'm going to suffer through it. I love Persona 5. I want the story. And I was like, I can't do this. I hate this so much.
Oh, dude. I got the plat in that one. I'm just a Persona fiend. Like, I got the plat in that. Royal in the dancing game. That's how you know I have a problem.
I've never played dancing all that. I haven't done that one. But
that game's fun. It's fun.
I've genuinely thought about going back and finishing Strikers, but like more and more, I'm like, I might have to watch that on YouTube. I might just have to watch the cutscenes because I want to know what happens, but I just don't want to play this game. I don't like Musos.
Yeah, I typically don't either, but when you added the Persona Flare, I was just like, you son of a bitch, I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, you know I love the
But-
Phantom Thieves, so I'm all about that. And I platinumed that.
Yeah.
I platinumed the real game, so I
Fair
might not be like the #1 fan, but I'm legit. Just want to.
Yeah, I just need Persona 5 Arena, and then we can get on to Persona 6. Like, I just need what. I know a lot of people are like, we don't need any more spin-offs, just give me Persona 6. I was like, well, actually, give me one more spin-off and then Persona 6. Because Persona 4 Arena was that gas, that fire. Like, John was at Evo. Like, I know Arc System Works is busy these days, but if they can just find it in their heart to just like squeeze out a little extra time and make the sequel to the best fighting game, I'd appreciate it.
My boy needs it.
But now I'm getting way too off topic. This is supposed to be about Nintendo, baby.
Yeah, let's steer it back to Mario because we also got the announcement of a new WarioWare game, which I gotta say I was very surprised by. Because we've already got a WarioWare on the Switch, and it was not that long ago. So, like, the fact that another one is already out is pretty surprising. But
you know what else is surprising? The fact that they had this whole section for the new WarioWare, and they're just letting that 1-2 Switch sequel just like die.
Dude, it's so funny to me that like they didn't put that in here. They haven't talked about it. They literally are just like, we are real embarrassed of this game. Please don't buy it. Well, buy it, but don't ever talk about it. Give us money and then please forget it.
It's just like, because they must know that WarioWare is where it's at. And I can't imagine these games, not to belittle the hard work that goes into game development at all, but I can't imagine a WarioWare being an extremely expensive game to make, if you know what I mean. Like, compared to a new Mario game or the new Zelda, I feel like they can pump it out a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair to say just because it's like you're making a bunch of mini games, but I really don't have any concept of like what that costs, honestly. But
Yeah.
I think you're definitely right to say that it takes a lot less time and energy than like something like Tears of the Kingdom or whatever, right? Like,
yeah, and that's why we're getting 2 of these games in 2 years.
Yeah, which
and
is
it's like
great though. I mean,
yeah,
I think this game looked really fun. Like, I know the last one, Chewy, one of the original co-hosts of Nintendo Noise, was a big fan of it and enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't think it hit with the broader audience as much, but I think now would be a great time for it. Like, lockdown is done, people can go outside again. Like, hang
out with their friends face to face.
Yeah, looking at this looked like a fun party game, and like the friends I watched the direct with were like, I would like to get this and play this like at a party, right? And I think that's the bar it needs to hit.
Yeah, and like at the end of the day, and the reason I say budget is because I've been looking at movie statistics and box office figures and things like that, and how much it costs to like make and return on investments.
Yeah.
And it's similar but different with video games. So I had to say, this game doesn't need to sell 3 million copies. Like, if this has a strong, loyal fan base, I can see us getting a new WarioWare every couple of years, and I'm about that life.
Yeah.
Just keep adding like crazier, like weirder mini games. I'm about that life.
This one's got over 200, which they said too, which sounds pretty fucking cool. Like, there's quite, seems like there's quite a bit to do. A lot of the ones they showed off I thought looked really fun, or like funny, Like, they look like a lot of them have that like Jackbox quality of like, some of these are actually fun games and some of these are just like funny to do in a room with your friends and like be goofing around and laughing at, and like, oh, everybody's like, having to like make like the thing that they showed off, right? Where it was like the guy just like shaking his, his butt while he's like dancing with the Joy-Cons and stuff. It's just like, it's just
or the one where you're like trying to try your back and you're trying to like doing this.
Yeah, like that's just cute. Like, right? Like that's the kind of stuff where like you have a couple friends over, you played at Thanksgiving with your family, like, and you get those like classic Wii moments, of like
this is exactly what Nintendo wanted to do ever since the Wii. Just like make games that brings the family together and friends together, and like it's a community game. Like that is a good I don't want to say top off to the Direct, but it was a real nice thing to see, a real nice surprise.
And again, right,
but wait,
this is another game we did not know about, had not heard about, and it's out in November.
It comes out this year. Like, oh, November's so stacked. We have Starfield, WarioWare, Persona,
Well, Starfield September.
Mario. Oh, September.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I'm okay. You see, I got that all the way wrong. Wrong
No,
then.
you're good because we've been talking about how there's all these dates in that 3-month
there's
window.
there's
So I don't
you know
blame
what?
you
There's
for
so
getting
much
them
stuff
turned
coming
around.
out.
I think it's the 6th. I think is the date on that one. But yeah, I
Yeah, Wario's
literally
coming out the 6th.
I
Yeah.
can't keep them all straight anymore. Yeah,
Oh, but speaking.
Wario's on November 6th, but you're about to tee up the next one. Go for it.
Yeah, but like, speaking of surprises, once again, back-to-back bangers. I did not see Detective Pikachu 2 coming in.
This is a game. Steve and I have been talking about this game for years because they announced that this game was in development back when we were at Loot Pots like years ago. And then they never talked about it again. Like, it's like, I think this game has been mentioned like twice. And we were like, is this dead? Like, did they just kill this game and they're not ever going to put it out? Like, where did it go? They never made another movie. Like, what happened with Detective Pikachu?
And the movie was incredibly successful.
I know, it's weird.
Over $400 million.
And then it's just like, and then it's just like out of nowhere. It's like, oh, by the way, it's done and it's out in October. It's like, okay, cool, great. Like, but what the fuck? Like, what happened?
Yeah, I see. I'm curious about this one, right? Because I know that to be fair, I haven't played the first Detective Pikachu. I saw the movie, loved the movie, but I haven't played the game, right? When it first came out, it didn't necessarily get rave reviews. Like, it was okay. And the fact that it's coming kind of radio silent and it's just like dropping, it was a nice surprise, nice to toss in.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious how this game will actually be in terms of like, I don't want to say quality, but you know what I mean.
I don't know. Yeah, like it's really hard for me to understand because like so looking at the first one, I'm trying to figure out. So it looks like on Metacritic the original has a 71. The highest review I'm seeing from it, Nintendo Life gave it an 8. IGN gave it an 8.2, but most of the other reviews seem to trend like in the 7s or 6s. I mean, looking at this trailer, that's what that looks like to me. It looks like it's more a 6 or a 7 type game, not a must play, a classic or anything like that. But I don't know because it's it looks goofy as hell and very silly. But I like that kind of thing, so I could see myself giving it a shot. And if it's funny and it knows that it's goofy and it's like we're going to lean into how silly this is and do something silly and fun and kind of different for the Pokemon universe. I like that idea in theory, but it's like, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know if this is going to be...
It's also coming out during such a stacked month. Like, I guess
no way
like,
I'm
when we
playing
get
it
to
at
the end
launch.
here... No. But I guess when we get to the end here, we should pick one game that I think that is just going to get, like, lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
And I feel like that will probably be Detective Pikachu, not counting like the obvious stuff like
some of these
Just Dance
games, man.
24,
I know that you need to put games out at some point, and that like the pandemic like pushed a lot of games back and yada yada yada. But it's like in the same breath, I don't understand why all these games are like rushing out to be put out in a fall that is so full. The fact that Nintendo has 4 games in this show that are coming out in a 3-month period is like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
You're advertising multiple games that are coming out on the same day. That seems
oh
crazy.
Man, I still can't get over the fact that Persona 4 comes out, or 5 comes out that same day. But I will say this, at least with Persona, it's a multi-platform game. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So if you don't have a Switch, people who have like an Xbox or PlayStation will probably eat that up. So maybe that's why Nintendo doesn't consider that.
I'm pretty sure it's coming to Game Pass day one.
Yeah, it is. That and the Persona 3 remake, Game Pass Day 1.
Yeah.
So I guess like that's where it will kind of like feast. And I'm also curious to see, well, I guess to be fair, those type of games typically don't sell super well on Xbox anyway. I was going to say how that would hurt the sales for people who have Xbox as far as playing it on Game Pass versus just buying the game.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing, right? Like the fact that it's on Game Pass, like they got money up front for that. So I'm sure that offsets, like, because to your point, that game probably wouldn't sell as well on Xbox as it would on Switch or PlayStation anyway, just naturally. But I bet you because it's on Game Pass, you'll get a lot of people that go play it on Xbox instead of, because I'll play it on Xbox because I have Game Pass, right? What am I going to go pay for it? I can't afford all these games. We were just talking about that. So yeah, of course I'll play that one for free there, even though I'd probably rather play it on Switch, but like whatever, who cares?
Yeah, it's like if it's $60, like what's up?
Yeah, right? Like
I'd
rather save the money.
Yo, facts. And speaking of not saving money though, Pikmin 4.
Oh, baby, dude. This is one of the like
next month.
This is a huge one for me. I'm a really big Pikmin fan. I think how much of a Pikmin fan I am is often undersold. I don't think people recognize my Pikmin love enough. This game's been in development for like 10 years. I'm so excited to finally play this game.
Has it been that long, really?
I mean, so Pikmin 3 came out on Wii U in 2012 or 2013. I can't exactly remember.
2013. No, you're right. It has been a decade.
Miyamoto's been talking about it like since then, basically. Like he's like, "Oh yeah, it's coming. We're working on it. It's coming." And I mean, the work I think speaks for itself, because looking at this was the first real extended look we've gotten at it, which again is crazy. I can't believe how little Nintendo is showing games before they come out now. They've really seemingly changed their strategy there a bit, but
they said we know you're going to buy it.
Yeah. Oh, and also I guess they probably don't want to get bit like they did with the Metroid stuff, where like they're afraid of announcing things too soon. They would rather be like, "Hey, this is imminent. Go pre-order it now," than be like, "Oh, it's coming. But yeah, this was the biggest like extended look we got of it, and we got a lot of information about how Ochi works, or
Ochi,
who I love him. I think he's adorable. I want him to get an amiibo so bad. And like they showed off the Dandori battle mini games and stuff, which is kind of an evolution of some of the 2-player stuff that was in 3. Like they showed off a lot of really interesting environments, like stuff that's like seemingly taking place like indoors and houses and stuff, which has a lot of interesting implications for the lore of Pikmin, and I'm kind of excited to see like how that goes. They have a whole underground area, like it's freaking Tears of the Kingdom, and they revealed that you're going to be able to do expeditions at night, which is the first ever for the series as well. So there's a lot here that is like even like the RPG elements where you're like upgrading your characters,
level up
skills.
Ochi and things like that.
Yeah, and like having the ability of like when you find the other like crew members that are lost, you can bring them back to your base, and then like that gives you abilities to like unlock new things you can do at base camp. Those are all brand new features that like are really meaningful additions to the formula.
So this is my history with Pikmin, right? The first Pikmin was a game I got when I got my GameCube. I think it was a launch game even, right? I played the heck out of Pikmin 1. But, 9-year-old Kenny had mashed potatoes for brains. So I never got past, like, getting the blue Pikmin and just, like, replaying the first 3 parts of the game over and over because I couldn't beat it. So I have this, like, really weird love-hate relationship where it's like, I was basically bashing my head against the wall for hours, but I loved every minute of it. And then I just never played another Pikmin since. So I think after watching this trailer, I think this might be the game to get me back into it. I don't know.
Dude, you gotta get back. I think
this might be the one.
You gotta get back into it. And I gotta say, I'm really excited because I feel like there was some talk about, like we were talking about earlier on this year about like, is this game gonna struggle to find an audience? I've been really pleased to see how many folks that I know that have never played Pikmin that are like, this is gonna be my first one. I'm in. It looks fun. Over on the Discord, Sierra was actually saying that she wants to pick it up now, and I'm like really excited about that, right? I'm excited to have other people on the show that want to talk about it with me,
Yeah, you're getting more people to join your Pikmin cult, Pete.
Yeah, dude, people for the ethical treatment of Pikmin, guys. That's my Pikmin fan club. Yeah, I'm all about this. I'm very excited that it's like a month away as of today, right? So we're right up on it now. And
Pikmin 1 and 2.
Yeah, are available today, which is very, very cool.
Today.
Very, very cool. And that actually takes us to a question from the question block. Armo from the Discord wrote in and said, continuing that arc, should I play Pikmin 1 or 2 before 4? So a couple weeks ago, Armo wrote in and was like, should I play 3 before getting into 4? I want to give 4 a shot. And I'll say the same thing that I said then. Pikmin 1, 2, and 3 are all great games. They're all good in their own right, and I think each of them is different enough from one another where it doesn't feel to me like a franchise where it's like, oh, 4 is coming out, it's not worth playing the old ones. You just play the new one. I think they're all worth playing, but I don't think you have to play any of them to appreciate 4. So I think if you're excited for 4, I would say pick up 4 at launch and play it, and then if you dig it, go and play the older ones after that, because I want to signal to Nintendo that Pikmin is an S tier franchise that they need to pay more attention to. So we got to buy that new game, okay?
Yeah, so simply because I only played the first one, you played all three of them, right? You wouldn't say that playing 3 or 4 and then going back to the first two would make the first two more rough around the edges or like not as enjoyable?
I don't think so, because
Because
I
I
think
know they added quality of life things, I'm
yeah, and
sure.
that's the thing, right? Is like there are going to be changes. There's going to be quality of life stuff that's different. There's going to be things that maybe you get used to that are going to change or whatever. And like, that always comes with a curve to some degree. But I think what's really cool about Pikmin is I think each game meaningfully builds on the mechanics of the last one. But I think it's very similar to the conversation Steve and I had about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom earlier this year, where it's like, is Tears of the Kingdom so good that it makes Breath of the Wild obsolete? And I think no, because the way that you solve problems is so different in those games, right? Because
Completely different tool set.
you have a different tool set, exactly. And like in each Pikmin, right? Like you get introduced to new kinds of Pikmin, right? Like in this game, we got to first look at the new breed that we're gonna meet, and I mean maybe there's more than one, but there's at least one. That are called like glow Pikmin, and they're like little ghosts, and you can like combine them into like a big charge shot energy ball and fling them,
And
and then they all just
and they only come out
swarm.
at night too, which is
Yeah,
kind of a cool
yeah, which is like
mechanic that adds something extra to it.
yeah, so like that's how you'll get to do you can use them during the night missions and everything, and like their hives are getting attacked by like monsters, and like you can like help them out there, and it's that seems really cool. But yeah, so to like take it back, like in the first game, right? Like you only have one playable character, and all of the puzzles are like very much about like time management, and you can only do stuff during the day, and like what are you going to get done, and how are you going to move towards your goal, and there's like a like time element to the journey that you're on. And then the second one, there's two playable characters, and like that switched things up, like in terms of crowd control and how you manage combat and everything like that evolved that. And then the third game is about there's four main characters, and you can take them all around the map, so you can like be doing things in multiple places at different times. And
I see.
so and like this game, that's not seemingly that's not a mechanic here. So like even if you played this and then you went back and played Pikmin 3, yeah, there might be some quality of life stuff where you're like, okay, this is different, this isn't that, and you'll have to learn. But like the
Nothing that would take away from what makes it
yeah,
unique and special and
the core
enjoyable.
mechanics are
Fair.
different and unique entry to entry in a way that is cool. Like the core base of it, of how you use the Pikmin and how you collect resources and use your time and everything, that doesn't change. But the types of problems you're trying to solve and how you solve them are different enough that I think there really is value in playing the whole series. And now that it's all available on Switch, it's such a great opportunity now for folks to like get into it for the first time, which I think is really exciting.
And it's out today, like digitally. It comes out physically, I think, next month. Pikmin 1 and 2.
It's
The
actually in
remake.
September.
Oh, September?
Yeah, Armo wrote in and said they didn't mention it in the direct, but a physical version is coming on September 22nd, and I was able to confirm that via IGN and Nintendo.com. So September 22nd is when you'll be able to get the physical release, but you can go get the digital right now. So I mean, again, I would say like if you're already a Pikmin fan and you're gonna go replay them, like I saw Doc in the Discord was talking about being excited to go replay Pikmin 2, awesome. But if I want to try Pikmin for the first time, get it on 4. Get it on 4.
Yeah, just wait a month. Yeah, it's fair enough. Fair enough.
Because I want them, I really want this game to sell well and show that like Pikmin is a franchise that deserves to stick around. Because I feel like it's one of
True.
those like it's one bad game away from getting Star Foxed, and I don't want that.
Yeah, like this franchise has been going on for 22 years. Jeez. That makes me feel old, damn. But speaking of collections, Pete, my man, You got to play Metal Gear Solid.
Yo, so Metal Gear
You got to play
Solid
Metal Gear Solid.
Volume 1 coming to Switch. So here's the thing. Steve and I have talked about how neither of us have ever played Metal Gear Solid. I really think I want to give it a go. Like, it feels like a real gap for me that I'd like to try to fill. And, like, I think this collection, whether I play it on Switch or wherever, feels like a good way to do it. Because it's like, you've got MGS 1, 2, and 3, and then they have the Metal Gear games, like the original ones, and then they have the NES Metal Gear, and then the other NES Snake title. I forget what it's called.
And then a
Snake's
bunch of like
Revenge.
extra things, like in-book text about the stories, like basically a Metal Gear Solid encyclopedia included with the game. Granted, you don't touch that, you don't look at it until you beat all the games, but
Still, like, it feels like a great package for, like, if you're a longtime fan, it feels like a rewarding way to, like, revisit it. And if you're a new person, it feels like a good way to kind of, like, really appreciate the history and like, kind of all the context for it, you know? Seems like a really good package for,
yeah,
for what it is.
and, and I'm hoping like I know they're going to come out with Volume 2 regardless, right? But I just hope like this package is so good that it gets me hopeful for the Volume 2 because Metal Gear Solid 4 specifically has been stuck behind a PS3 since it came out.
I
And that's
know.
a tragedy. I love Metal Gear Solid 4. It was such a good conclusion.
So, I mean, for Volume 2, what? You got to imagine it would be Metal Gear Solid 4 and 5, and then Peace Walker, right?
Peace Walker.
Yeah.
Probably those ones, definitely.
Oh, and then Ground Zero, probably, right? That was the short game that was
The
the
prequel of
5.
Ground Zeroes.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they just do Volume 2 as Peace Walker and 4, since 5 and Ground Zeroes is already so readily available
That's true.
on modern day consoles.
Yeah.
They could bundle it together, but I just feel like it's not needed.
It is
whereas
a couple of years old now, though. You could give it like the 4K 60 FPS update type thing.
True. They can spit and shine it, but at the end of the day, Hideo Kojima has nothing to do with this, so they're not going to add anything real extra besides some polish. You know what I mean?
Which, like, I think is fine. You know, like they're already doing the Delta remake of 3, and like that's.
I feel so weird about that game. Not slightly off topic here, but they're literally just using. They have all the original voice actors coming back because they're just using the same audio files from the original game, and they say it's going to be 1-to-1 remake. But it's like the best remakes bring things up to modern day, but they also polish it. They've added something new to make it something modern.
Yeah.
They need to. They need to do something with Delta to make it worthwhile. And if they make any changes to Delta without Hideo Kojima's involvement, there's a high probability it's going to be trash. You haven't played the Metal Gear Solid game, so you don't get it. But like this, very much is his brain, baby.
Oh no, I totally respect that. I think the thing that's interesting for me though is like, and it's easy for me to say because I'm like on the outside of it, right? So like I'm not precious about Metal Gear as much as I respect it, and I respect Kojima as like an auteur, right? Like one of the great, auteurs of games. It's interesting to me that people feel like no one else can like polish his work. Because I feel like the idea of like adding things or whatever, like, yeah, I think that you don't do that. But the idea that they can take Metal Gear Solid 3 and like do for it what Toys for Bob did for like the Spyro trilogy, or like what happened with the Crash Insane trilogy with Vicarious Visions, rest in peace, or to a lesser extent, because they did iterate on it more, what they did with not Metal Gear Solid, excuse me, with
Tony Hawk.
Not that, but yes. I was gonna say Resident Evil, like the RE2 remake, right? Where it's like it is more or less the same game, but it also isn't. Like it's like how do you take that? How do you take the same beats, the same vibe, the same tone, art style, like the feel of it, and then make it feel like people. This is the thing I always think you want to do with a remake, right? There's two ways to go about it. You either do the from the ground up remake where it's like we're going to take this thing and re-envision it as something new that is spiritually the same, which I think is like the Resident Evil thing. Or you want to do the Crash Bandicoot Spyro thing, which is I want to make this game feel like people remember it rather than how it actually is, right?
True.
And that I think is doable. I think that they can do that with the RE or the Metal Gear 3 remake, because if you're telling me that all they're going to do is like, we're going to remake it, it's going to be exactly the same in terms of everything that's important, but it's going to look a little smoother, it'll run better, it'll have autosave, it'll have other like quality of life things that you come to expect from a video game that comes out in 2023, that might be okay.
Yeah, it's just like the weird thing, and the reason people are so meticulous with Hideo Kojima specifically, and you'll realize this once you actually play the games, is that he is a devil in the details, every little thing, to the point that, like, in Metal Gear Solid 5, like the horses poop on on like a time-based cycle, like little details like that no normal game developer would even think of are included in these games, and they have all these little details that tie directly into a highly complicated story. Like you're spoiled about a couple of little things, but like it's way more than that. It's freaking crazy of the stories. So the idea of someone messing with those details, is why people are hesitant without having him to at least overview
I
it.
understand
Even though someone primarily had it and he was an advice.
Yeah, and I definitely understand hesitance. I think it's the assertion that no matter what, it'll be bad if he's not involved, where I'm like, let's give it a shot. Because there are also people that worked on the game on this team, right? So it's like, all credit to Hideo, but like, he's not the only person that made the game, right? So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, that game's not coming out on the Switch, so we should probably pivot.
Yeah, but worst case scenario, we got this. We have a really nice, faithful package for these games that is awesome. And I really appreciate that they are selling it a la carte as well. If you don't want to buy the collection, you can just buy each individual game. That's rare with some of these.
Oh, really?
Yeah, some of the classic remasters like that. So that's really cool. I appreciate that.
That is cool. Yeah, no, that's dope. So like I feel like we hit all the big major announcements.
We do.
Like we got some Pokemon DLC.
And hold on. I'm going to cut you off right there because we're going to talk about that Pokemon DLC in just a second, because I got to remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of June. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Snackago, Ty the Dude, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You're all the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. If you want to write in and be a part of the show, you want to get the show early, you want to get your name read on the air, all kinds of good perks and goodies, guess what? You can find all that and much more over at our website, flipscreen.games, where you will find links to our Patreon, our Discord, where you can keep the conversation rolling between episodes, the question block, where you can write in just like people did for this week's show, and a bunch of other stuff. However you choose to get involved, join the community, or write into the show, we thank you for tuning in to another episode of Nintendo Noise. So, you said it. Let's get back into it. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Hidden Treasure of Area Zero, has gotten another look, and I gotta say, I understand why they kicked off the direct here, because I don't feel like this had another good place in the show. I feel like they did not need to show this, because it gave us zero new information. It was just new shots of stuff that we've already heard about, and it didn't make me more hype. In fact, it made me less hype. Because when they initially announced this DLC, I had and you and I haven't gotten to talk about this, right? Because my journey with Pokemon Scarlet's been a long, winding road, and you're the key part of it. Because what happened was, right, game releases, it's a mess. I had loved Arceus at the beginning of the year, and in frustration and protest, I didn't pick up Scarlet. I didn't play it until earlier this year when you graciously bought me a copy, and I really ended up having fun with it once I was able to kind of get past its obvious failings, right? What it's not. But I gotta tell you, right? When they announced this DLC, I was like, yo, all right, like I'm playing that game right now. I'm having fun with it. I'm down to get back into it. Looking at this trailer, I'm like, I'm not gonna play this. Because I didn't play the Sword and Shield DLC either. I bought it, and I played Isle of Armor, or whichever the first one was. And I got 75% of the way through it, 50% of the way through it, and I bounced off. And it's just like, I don't really want to, I don't know that I want it. And like, I think if it was a softer year, sure. Like, dude, what do you think? I'm going to play this in the fall? When's this come out? I forget the date, but it's like, it's right in the middle of all this
Both
crap
come
we were
out
just
this
talking
year.
about.
Yeah, so I think that if you're specifically into and currently into the competitive Pokemon scene, because like competitive Pokemon battling is completely different than playing this single player game, right?
Absolutely. And don't get me wrong,
Seeing
I'm doing a lot of that, and I'm having a great time with it.
Yeah, so the cool thing with the DLC here is that, lots of controversies with the last game. They cut out some Pokemon to make it into the sequel, right? Um,
Talcos.
so with this, yeah. So this game brings a lot of the older Pokemon back into the game, and that fundamentally changes the meta of the competitive scene. So if you're like a hardcore Pokemon like competitive battler, like this is up your alley. But I
But
will
it's
say that
like,
beyond that, the
but
actual zones themselves that they showed off, they don't seem as what's what I'm looking for? Exciting? You know
no.
what I mean? It
And,
like
and
it doesn't like I'm going to like this weird like crazy futuristic city. Like what they should have done, because the whole concept, spoiler alert, Pokemon if you care, there's a time travel in Scarlet and Violet, right? There's a time machine. That's how you get these prehistoric Pokemon in the game,
right.
and that's how you get some Pokemon in the future, depending on which version that you get. What they should have done is had the DLCs be based in the past and in the future, and showed off the different worlds and how they
Yeah, and
would
give me
look.
more
That
Pokemon.
would and give us more Pokemon in the process.
Yeah.
That would have been dope. But now we're exploring like these two areas that look like, what is it, like a giant ship? Okay.
Well, and it's like,
And like another open area. Okay.
and
I don't
it's
care.
like, I feel bad saying this, but it's story driven. And like Pokemon stories suck. They're not good. And like I love Pokemon. I love the world of Pokemon. I love the Pokemon some of the seasons of the Pokemon anime. I've read plenty of Pokemon stories that I really enjoy. It's possible to tell good stories in this universe. Game Freak just hasn't really figured it out. And like I don't feel super motivated to play 2 DLCs in the fall and winter of this year, which are stacked. And like you made the point about competitive, but it's like I don't need to play through that content to use those Pokemon, like, or to engage with the metagame, which is the part that I like.
Pokemon Showdown, baby.
Yeah,
um,
exactly. And also, I'm pretty sure, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know because I bought the DLC for the last game. If I don't own the DLC, it's not like I can't use those Pokemon. They're still added to the game.
so if you don't have the DLC, you can't catch the Pokemon, but they can be traded to you.
Exactly. And,
Um,
like,
so
you know, spoiler alert, there are ways to get Pokemon that aren't catching them. So, it's like, I don't really like, do I need to do that? Like, if I really want those Pokemon, I could go on a Discord and get somebody to trade me the Pokemon that I need. And it's, like,
so
I'll keep playing competitive because I enjoy that. But I don't know that I'm going to fit in 2 Pokemon story DLCs when I've got all literally 5 other games from this direct that I'm going to be competing for my attention.
playing this year. Yeah, like I wish Legends Arceus got a DLC update. That game I would have been gassed for DLC.
I wanted a battle tower in it so bad because there's like no trainer battles. Give us and they added more battles at the little place you can go to in the town and everything. That was cool, but like a battle tower DLC for that would have been so fucking awesome. And I really hope they make another Legends game. And I also don't know that they ever will.
I hope so. Listen, Legends sold very well, and it was critically a success.
Yeah.
So I feel like they would be foolish not to.
You'd think.
Um,
But you'd think that about Pokemon Let's Go, right? Like you thought Let's Go Johto was a thing that would have happened by now, but it didn't.
Yo, true. Like Arceus might just be like lightning in a bottle. That was
Yeah, it might be.
What a bright flame.
I mean, but I think.
Would you say?
Go ahead.
Oh, so would you say that you still prefer the DLC method of expanding these games, or do you want them to go back to what they did before, like the third version?
No,
I thought that was dumb.
I don't. I it's tough because back in the day, I think a lot of the third versions were some of the best games, right? Like the Crystal, Emerald, like Platinum especially. Like those games are fire. And I think for me though, when you look at the last couple generations, I think they've gotten really weak. Like Sun and Moon versus Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, the amount of difference is just not enough to warrant me replaying an entire game, especially when that game was so story driven and that Pokemon is a little more like story heavy, it's like I don't really want to do that. I don't think Pokemon is as replayable as it used to be. And I don't think that that's a nostalgia or me being old thing, because I play the new games and I enjoy the new games, but like you can't get the
After
same
20
amount out of it.
years.
They're not as
Or more than.
the modern games, right, are not as focused on battling as they used to be. They're more focused on capturing, and that's not as fun to do a second time. Like,
True.
Back in the day, and I'm sure you were the same way, right? Like, when I wanted to play a Pokemon game again, it would be like, all right, like, which one am I going to play again? And then, like, what's the thing I'm going to do, right? Like, oh, this time I'll only use not fully evolved Pokemon. I'll use a team that's monotype. I'll use this team. I'll use the team Ash used in the anime. I'll do, I'm going to start with I'm not going to use a regular starter. I'm going to trade myself a Pokemon and use that as a starter. Like, you would go through those, at least I would, and I know a lot of players did, right? You go through those iterations, whereas like now, at least for me, like I hit that point where it's like, yeah, like I don't want to do this stuff again. It was fun enough once, but like there hasn't been a Pokemon game since Arceus where the first time I played it through, I was like, oh, this is like an 8 or higher, right? Like it's like
Aside from Arceus, the last one I can think of would probably be like that I really got back into Pokemon was X and Y. Like I loved X and Y so much. Mega
even
Evolutions,
that, though,
baby.
I don't want to replay those games though, because again, it's like there's so much dialogue. There's so much
True.
that is just like, what are we doing here, man? And like it's the 3DS era is where I think all the problems with Pokemon like really came
Started
to a
to
head.
shine.
Yeah, and it's like I think we're moving back in the right direction now, but I don't know, it's tough because I think it's like it's trying to serve all these different masters now, right? Like there's the old heads that want it to be a certain thing. They want it to be the new accessible game for kids. They want to speak to the folks that just want to catch Pokemon, that play Pokemon Go. They want to speak to the competitive hardcore audience that wants it to be a turn-based RPG, which is not a popular thing anymore. Like it wants to be all these different things, and I think it needs to like spread out. It needs to become multiple series that each have a different goal, and that's the way forward.
The tricky part with Pokemon is that it's not just a game series. It's a multi-faceted corporation, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's a multimedia
They come up with the games.
Conglomerate,
Yeah, that's why it comes out like clockwork every year, why they never take an extra year or two to develop a game. Because with the games comes the new anime and the new cards, and it feeds into Pokemon Go. But it all ties back to the game. If you delay the game a year, it delays the type of new Pokemon you can release in cards a year.
Though. I think
it
it's
delays
interesting.
everything.
Because you're right, but I think that's changing, right? You look at the last couple seasons of the anime, right? After the Sun and Moon anime, they moved away from it being like, oh, the next season is the next game. Like they moved towards a more like, oh, like this one's global and like he's traveling all over the different regions and it's this and it's that. And like now they're doing the DLC thing and it's like, hey, we don't need to make a new game. We can just make new content and that'll have new Pokemon that we can make new stuff with and new cards and like you get that same cycle, but you're not as on the treadmill. And like they're bringing in now a second studio to do the remakes, right? Like the Diamond and Pearl remakes were done by a different team. I hope that
we don't talk about those remakes.
I think they get a bad rap, but I don't know. It's tough. Your mileage may vary, but I feel like
sorry.
No, you're good. Hopefully they're moving away from that, and that it is going to get to a point where it's more sustainable, and like these games can just have a little more room to breathe. Because like you can still put out a Pokemon game every year and have these development cycles be longer. There's a way to do that. Like Call of Duty figured it out. Why can't Pokemon? They have the resources. It's a lack of desire and a lack of market pressure, right? Is that
so? How did
the most broken game they've released since the first game is also the best-selling game in the second one of the best-selling games in the franchise, right?
So how did they get away with Arceus? Because that came out the same year as Scarlet and Violet. Like, did they have developers Game
They
Freak?
have multiple teams. They adopted like a staggered development schedule where like the team that made Sword and Shield was different than the team that made the DLC for Sword and Shield. So I'm
I see.
imagining that it's like the handoff goes that way, right? Like that team, while they were working on DLC, this team starts on Arceus. While Arceus is getting wrapped up, we start on this game while that's getting, up. But that's the thing is Arceus and Scarlet Violet were, they were seemingly developed at the same time, just by two different teams, which is annoying because that's why you get a game that comes out after Arceus and feels like a step backward, right? Where it's like, where's all these features that you introduced in Arceus that I got used to? Why don't I have them anymore? It's like, well, because we developed these at the same time and we couldn't react to the market. Because that's,
Yeah, it's like I feel like Arceus moved the franchise forward in so many ways. Was lacking a few key features, like to be blunt, multiplayer. I would have loved
I
to
mean,
battle you
it
in
was also
Arceus. That
butt
would have been fun.
ugly, right? Like, it's not a pretty
Yeah.
game, but it was a good one. It was a really good one, I
It was
thought.
real good. But like I just want more of that now. Give
Yep.
me Arceus 2. That's Pokemon Legends Ho-Oh. I don't know.
I feel like
give me that Johto.
I'd be so down for that, dude. I would love a Pokemon Legends game like set in Johto. That would be so cool.
Yeah, no, like
Tie it back to all the
Pokemon
history.
needs to.
There's so much history in that region. Like all the legendaries are.
There's so much lore that you can do with Pokemon in general.
Yeah.
So much untapped territory, and that's part of the reason why the Scarlet and Violet DLC is so disappointed, because it literally has a time machine as part of the central plot in the story, and they don't take advantage of that. Like if they sent us into the past or into the far future, I would have been hyped to the moon. Like this would have been up there for me. But as it looks right now,
Skip.
I'll get around to it eventually. Maybe
It's
maybe,
a skip,
but
dog. It's a skip.
just too much stuff going
But
on.
talking about some DLC that looks good, Mario Kart 8 gave us a look at the next wave of DLC. This is wave 5 if you haven't been keeping up, and this one has some cool stuff in it. We got the Squeaky Clean Spring course is like a new course that's coming with it, and then we have PD Piranha from Double Dash, Wiggler from Mario Kart 7, and then Kamek from Mario Kart Tour are all getting added. Great additions. Like PD Piranha, beloved, of course.
So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe with the DLC, it's basically becoming Smash Brothers Ultimate. Every track, every character, everybody is here.
Yeah.
Like this that is the closest equivalent I can give to this. Now, it's not that I dislike Mario Kart. 'Cause, I play with friends, it's fun. But I don't like play it in my free time. I'm not like a huge Mario Kart fan. But I do appreciate and respect everything that they're doing with this DLC. Like, if you're a Mario Kart fan, like you're just feasting for like months, years on end.
It's just nice that, like, considering that they they've been milking this game for like over a decade at this point, or just about a decade, I guess now, and that's nuts. And it's really cool that on the 10th anniversary of this game, basically, they're like, all right, we're gonna get some new content, right? Like, let's make this the 0.5, that it kind of already was, right? Like they had already added so much good stuff with the DLC for the Wii U release that came in Deluxe when it came out, right? So the fact that they've been able to add, like basically the same amount of content that's in the main game basically through this DLC is really cool. It's like you're at a point now where like Mario Kart 8 is like just such an incredible value, and it makes sense that people are still buying it.
And if you have like the Nintendo Online Plus membership, you get the DLC free. So like, hey, that's a plus.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now I'm curious though. Where do you go from here? Because like Mario Kart 9, let's just call it, can't go bigger. Like you can't make a larger game than what Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has become.
I think it's gonna have to really it's gonna have to take a big swing. Like I think 8 feels like such a like this is perfect already. Like how do you iterate from here? And like I think they're gonna it's like this is like gonna sound like almost like a joke, but I think they're gonna have to go like somewhere along the lines of like Diddy Kong Racing, where it's like, oh, there's new vehicles, and like like there's gonna have to be a gimmick that is like something new, or maybe you go back to a well and you just take like, okay, we're gonna take the same system and mechanics and everything that we built out for Mario Kart 8, and then add in the Double Dash formula or something like that, right? Like,
see that
they gotta come up with something like that.
Double Dash. Double Dash was the one Mario Kart game I really rocked with. I love Double Dash, and even though this is an Mario Kart game, I did love Diddy Kong Racing. I'm not huge into racing games in general, but those are the two.
I
That
like
and
kart
F Zero
racers.
are the
Yeah, I'm
ones
not
that
into
I
racing
rocked
games
with.
broadly, but I do like kart racers. I was always a Crash Team Racing guy, but Mario
Fair.
Kart 8 is probably the best kart racer made, right? That game's phenomenal.
I cannot even argue that in the least bit. Um, but speaking of bringing things back, we got a few more details with that Sonic the Hedgehog um, game. What was it called? Sonic Superstars. Thank you.
Superstars, yeah.
Uh, that game looks clutch, and
Can you
even though I
believe that we're getting a new 2D Mario and a new 2D Sonic that are like, it's new style, but also it's like harking back to the old thing that you love and miss. It's like, wow, damn, okay.
Yeah, man, it's a great time to be a platforming fan, right?
It
And like
really
Sonic
is.
fans are feasting. They got new 3D Sonic and new 2D Sonic within a year of each other. Like that is like we're eating well out here. And there's a rumor that there's going to be a fifth playable character that I just find highly likely. Because if you look at some of the promotional images, there's always like an empty spot where an extra character can fit. So I'm really looking for, and that also comes out this year, uh, unless
Yeah.
they delay it, because it says it comes out in fall of this year. I think it says, um,
I
yeah, fall
wouldn't
of this year.
I wouldn't be upset
But
if they delayed it. That would
it,
be okay.
the only reason I'd be upset is because I drafted that game in my league, and that'd be gut wrenching.
That
I'd
would be
lose.
rough.
I spent too much money on that game in my league when I should have been saving it for freaking Mario, apparently.
Yeah, right.
But if I had known this Nintendo Direct was coming, I would not have dropped like $30 on Sonic.
Yeah.
I would have doubled down on Mario, but yeah, no, someone else is going to snatch that up.
Yeah, that
But
probably
yeah,
would have been the way.
one of these days you need to get in on our draft league, Pete. Next year maybe.
I've always wanted to do one. I've always wanted to do one of those. I kind of want to do
They're
one here on the
fun.
podcast. So maybe you can help me get one off the ground.
Yo, I got you, man. I'm down to be in two different leagues.
Yeah, you can bring
um,
your experience here and clean up. And that's the thing, Ken, because I can be honest with you, right? Because we're old friends. I know, I know you know me, right? So
right.
I am the current champion here for our predictions. This is the Mbessi Trophy, right? Much like the Super Bowl trophy named after the original 2-time winner, myself. And I've been saying for ages that I want one of these jabronis that I work with here to like put up a fight, because they're like, oh, he named the trophy after him. So it's like, well, yeah, why don't you win us something then, So I would love to set up a draft league and have some fucking competition for a change, because I believe that you'll come correct. I think if you're going to take a swing, you got to make sure your arms are long enough to box with God. You know what I'm saying? Like,
come correct, not at all. Yo, you're talking a lot of
exactly.
big game for someone. So just because you got your predictions correct doesn't mean that you can draft games efficiently. Two different skill sets, man. And
You're right, but I mean,
I am a zero-time winner.
prediction's certainly a part of it. So I mean, I'm happy to bring my skill set to the challenge. Let's see how it goes. And here's the thing, Ken. Here's the thing. I'm a poor winner, gracious loser. I'll happily pat you on the back if you're able to beat me. But as long as everybody's going to show up and just keep tossing bricks, I mean, I got I'll be the heel that you need me to be. That's where I'm at. So I think we gotta get this off the ground for next year.
Hey, yo, no, we'll talk off stream. Like,
We'll talk.
we'll get this set up. I got you.
So another one I want to call out, because I know this is one that if Steve was here, he'd be screaming from the rafters, because Vampire Survivors is coming to Switch finally. Feels like it's insane that it's taken it this long to come, but they did at least bring something fresh to the table with it as well, which is pretty cool. So it's going to be coming out on August 17th, right? But it's going to have couch co-op that supports up to 4 players, which is really cool. Seemingly, that's exclusive to the Switch. I have not seen that mentioned on Xbox or any of the other like console releases that exist. I believe it's on just Xbox right now, but I could be wrong about that. So I mean, that's pretty different. Like that's a pretty interesting addition to the formula.
So I'm going to be blunt with you here. I've never played Vampire Survivors. So when I saw the announcement, I was like, that game looks familiar, but I never actually got around to trying
It
it.
was a really, really big wave last year. It was like one of the hot, like indie games that was making waves, and it's really good. I think it is like we joke a lot here about like what we call TV games, right? Where it's like this is a great game to play like while you're watching reruns of an old show, or like you're hanging out with your partner and they're watching something that you're half paying attention to and you just want to keep your hands busy. Like it's a perfect game for that type of engagement because it's like it's a nice, simple, arcadey style thing. It has the like kind of roguelite, like one more run type thing where it's like, what things are going to drop, what strategy am I going to take? And the whole thing is just you have your character and you auto attack and you just have to move and like keep clearing and like staying alive. And
so you literally just need one finger to like play,
just
really.
Literally just the finger you need to navigate the screen, right? And the only other choices that you make are whenever you level up, you like can pick new abilities. So and those will be random based on like your level and like like your character. Each character gets a different starting ability. There are like items you can find in the overworld that'll like also help you and give you an advantage and stuff like that. So there's like a map button to press. So like literally you might need a second hand once in a while, but like the core thing is just like kind of that gliding and exploring around the map thing. And it's very simple, but it's one of those games that's like easy to pick up, difficult to master. And then like as you feel yourself learning more and getting further into it and building up your characters and everything, you get that sense of like, oh, this thing that I used to not be able to do, now I can do every single time, right? And it's very satisfying, very satisfying. If you're looking for like a good arcadey type experience, highly recommend it. And it's like $3. It's so cheap, and it's a really fun game. It's great on Steam
And now
Deck.
that's coming on the Switch, it's kind of like that seems like a great game that's good on the go, on the bus, and things like that.
Yeah, I played on my Steam Deck a lot. That was my main platform for it. And I think it'll be right at home on Switch. It's crazy that it took this long to come to Switch, frankly.
It's crazy that it was only on PC and like Xbox for the longest time too. Like
Yeah.
you'd imagine when something becomes a smash hit like that, you port it to everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably part of it is that I think this was this studio's first game and it blew up, so it's like they got it to mobile now and it's popping off over there. So like I think they're finally catching up and getting it everywhere that it needs to be, right? Because it's certainly a hit, and it's crazy that it's as cheap as it is for like what a fun and satisfying game it is. You get a lot of hours out of it.
Game Informer gave it a 9.75.
Yeah, it's really good. You should check it out. It's like it's one of those games you look at and you're like, that looks fun, and then you're like, let me give it a shot, and then like 3 hours go by and you're like, oh holy shit, okay, I see, I get this now.
What happened to my day?
Yeah,
where did you go?
It's a day ruiner for sure. But again, like if you're on the go, it's like perfect for like you're on the bus, you're trying to kill time.
15 to 30 minute, playing spurts, like doing
and
a quick
round,
run in Dead
there's
Cells.
A clock that goes down, and the goal is to make it until time runs out. So like it has a designated endpoint, so it's perfect for like, oh, let me play for 30 minutes and I'm done, or I got 2 hours, let me take 3 or 4 runs and see how I do. Whatever.
Yeah,
really fun.
No, I'll add it to my ever-growing list of things to play.
Yeah, right, exactly. This is a good one to have as like a side piece, like just like chip
It's a
away
game you play alongside other things.
Yeah, when you're like you're done playing Final Fantasy for the night and you want to play something more chill, this is like a good transition kind of thing like that.
Like Tetris Effect for me.
Yeah,
for the longest
it's
time,
like that. It's that type of experience for sure.
I see.
So I wanted to mention this after Sonic because it was a platformer, but we jumped around a little bit. I did want to just shout this game out. Penny's Big Breakaway was a new 3D platformer that they showed off. It is from the team that made Sonic Mania, and they're releasing it with Private Division, and it looks really, really cool. It's you play as this girl named Penny, and she has like this sidekick that's like a magic yo-yo or something, and its name is Yo-Yo, and it's like you use the yo-yo as like the primary platforming thing, where like you can use it to like launch yourself in the air, you can like ride it,
You can
Just
kind of use it to get over long gaps and things like that. And it's a
yeah.
cool concept, like the idea of a yo-yo being used as an integral game concept in a platformer. It looks cool. It looks cool. Now, the people who made Sonic Mania, is this their first like 3D platformer? Because Sonic Mania was dope,
I
right?
think it is. I
Um,
think this is their first. I want to say that this is their first non that game project. If I'm not mistaken.
really. Let me. I'm gonna look this up real quick. Pennies big
Yeah, you
away.
find that because I'm trying to. Nintendo did not give me the footage for this on the direct page. I'm going to pull it up so that the folks can see it. Yeah, here I'm pulling up the Steam trailer. So excuse me if there's like PC logo or whatever, but it's the same thing. But yeah, I think this looks great. I think it has a really great art style. It's cute. It has a really like novel concept. Like you said, the yo-yo thing is unique, and like we don't get.
And it's not coming out this year.
It's not coming out this year, which is very good. And like we don't get 3D platformers like that. Like you don't get new 3D platformers very often. Hat in Time is like the
The
only
most recent big one that I can think of.
that's not
Um,
a Nintendo game, right? Or whatever. So
yeah.
this
Before
is
that, what
cool.
was it like? Ukulele was a
Yeah,
pretty good
right.
one, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So so it's nice that we're getting platformers that aren't just Nintendo. We're getting some fresh blood because as much as I love Nintendo platformers, right? They very much have their own style and way of going about things. So getting these platformers from different companies kind of adds more diversity. Like I can't
Yeah.
imagine Nintendo doing a yo-yo based
Like
platforming game. You know what
looking
I
at
mean?
it, it feels reminiscent of like PlayStation 1 platformers or like Dreamcast. Like,
Crash.
like it has
Yeah.
a different flavor and style to it. And it reminds me of a game like Croc or Toomba or like, like one of those like OG play, like the, more like
From
double
the colors
A
and everything.
type,
It
platformers, which I love that kind of game, and we just don't get it anymore. So I'm excited about that, and seeing like Evening Star is apparently the name of the team. Get to like work on an original IP and do something fresh is like that's really cool. That's really cool.
and it's like they earned it, right? They did Sonic. They crushed it, killed it, and now they get to do their own thing. Like
Hmm.
they earned it. It's like now when I go on their website, I only see that one game, Penny's Breakaway. But yeah, no, they
Because
deserve
I,
it,
I
and we're
think
still getting new Sonic.
my understanding is that when they made that, like after that they formed this company. So like this is their first at bat. That's not Sonic Mania.
That's not
Yeah, that's not
true.
under
True. So like
Sega, right?
there's that's not under Sega. Yeah. So like there's actually a bit writing on this actually, because like taking an established franchise that has a proven formula
Yeah,
and polishing it to like I would argue perfection, pretty much, and creating an entirely different game in a completely different like viewpoint, not even like side scrolling, but it looks like fully 3D here.
yeah,
That is a jump, and
for
I'm
sure.
very curious if they can pull it off.
I
You know
think
what I
they
mean?
can.
Uh,
Obviously Mania was a masterpiece. Like as you said, I think that game was phenomenal. This looks really good already, and I think the fact that it's being backed by Private Division is a really huge thing. If for those of you who don't know, Private Division is an imprint of 2K games, and it's like a sub publisher, and the goal of it is to partner with like AA indie independent AAA studios and empower them to self-publish, quote unquote self-publish, to basically put out a game themselves with the support of a big brand like 2K, but they get to keep the IP themselves and they're free to do whatever they want beyond the contract they've made for that game. So like this game will get released, and if it's a hit and then they want to self-publish the next game and not work with Private Division, they can do that. If they get bought and, Nintendo decides to bring them in-house and they want to make that game or that franchise Nintendo exclusive they could do that, right? Like it gives them
that's kind of cool.
a ton of financial backing, but with a lot of creative freedom, and then they get to maintain that IP. Like you look at probably the most famous game from the Private Division initiative thus far would be Outer Worlds. Obsidian worked with them on that game, and then that is now an Xbox thing now that they've been acquired, right? So they were able to maintain that IP and invest in wanting to make the kind of game they wanted to make, even if the market didn't necessarily say that game made sense, which is really cool to see them getting to do that now, because I think that's the thing that probably enabled this team to take a big swing and do something bigger and different.
Because that now they have the financial backing of Private Division. I'm looking at the stuff they did here, and like they helped release Hades physically. Outer Worlds is probably the biggest one.
Yeah.
The Ollie World, most recent game there.
Yeah, which is another great game, right?
Yeah, no, I gotta.
Yeah, Private Division is legit. It's a really cool publishing initiative. They've worked with some really good teams. They've made some good games. It's a really cool idea, and it's
especially
really cool
when we're
for a little team like this to let this be their stepping stone. Because if this game hits, they could be like the next Yacht Club, right? And then now we're independent. Now we do our own thing. We're independently funded. We're cool, but like we got that leg up, and we didn't have to sign the rights away to one of our, what could be our flagship IP. I look at somebody like Don't Nod, right? Where like they had to give away Life is Strange more or less to Square Enix to save the company, and now they don't own their most famous IP. That sucks. That won't happen with this studio. That's awesome.
And especially in like such a capitalistic world where like people are like trying to make money, capitalize on it.
IP is everything.
Squeeze money out the middleman. Like the fact that Private Division exists as it is and does what they do, just. And to be clear, you're teaching me something today. This is dope as hell. Like this gives me hope in this bleak world, if you will.
Yeah, it's really good. It's cool, like obviously, 2K they don't always make decisions that you like, but Private Division is a really cool initiative from them. So there's two other games I definitely want to touch on that are like newer things. And then there's like a couple little quick ones. But Dragon Quest Monsters, The Dark Prince, was shown off, which is another Square Enix collaboration. And this is interesting. This was coming out on December 1st, so another game coming out this year, which is insane.
My Lance.
Because we just cannot get away from these releases. But this game is basically like a Dragon Quest like meets Pokemon thing, where it is like you can capture the monsters. There's like the Persona-esque like fusing them.
Fusion.
Or Monster Rancher, right? Did that as well. And it's like you build a party of monsters, turn-based combat type thing. Very up my alley for sure. And I am not sure about this, but I feel like this is a revival of a spin-off series. Yes, it is. Okay, I was right about this.
Okay.
Yeah, because back in the day, there was a few of these. So they were on the Game Boy originally, and they were like around the time of Pokemon originally. The first one came out. It was Dragon Warrior Monsters, but that came out in '98. There was another one in 2001. There was another one in 2002. I remember playing I think the third one or maybe whatever, something like that on my friend's Game Boy Advance, I think.
Yeah.
So this is the first one in a while.
Yeah, so like the third one that they did never even made it over to the States. So the last one that we got here was back in 2011. So yeah, it's been dormant for a while. But I feel like kind of touching back on a point that we said earlier, I feel like this game is one of the ones that are going to be lost in the shuffle that is the end of the year. Like, I don't see how anyone can watch this direct, such a loaded direct, and be like, I can't wait to play Dragon Warrior, like, in December. You know what I mean? Like, that can't be high up on people's list.
I think
with everything going on.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not in
Dragon Quest.
Not in the States, anyway, right? Because, like, in Japan, Dragon Quest is huge,
fair.
Or / Warrior, right?
You're right.
But yeah, here it's just never been as big. It's never hit that like peak. But I mean, there's certainly a diehard audience out there for Dragon Quest. But yeah, I think it's a tough year for it. But I mean, it is in December, which is good. Coming out in December is a lot better than coming out in the fall, because I think by December there's a lot less that's competing for oxygen. You're maybe finishing some of those games off, whatever. But this could be one of those games that either maybe you get it when you need something new, you get it as a Christmas present, or you buy it in like January, February during that lull where it's like there isn't anything new and I'm hungry to try something new. Maybe I double back.
When you get those like holiday gift cards and whatnot. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah. I
I
think it's
can
it's
see
gonna
that.
be it's gonna struggle, I think, but I think maybe, you know? And I think the next one's in a similar boat, unfortunately, which is Star Ocean: The Second Story R, which is coming out on November 3rd, which is right in that packed
Oh
window.
my goodness.
And this is a remake of Star Ocean: The Second Story, which originally came out on the PlayStation in 1998, and it's got the whole like 2D 3D thing that's
I
been popularized with Octopath. You know?
I don't know how if I like the way this game looks, like the art style. I know they're trying to do like 2D,
Yeah.
3D like
Really, I thought it
art
looked
style.
cool.
I like it in other games, but it just looks something just seems slightly off to me. I think the I can't put my finger on it. Something just looks slightly like off. Maybe it's the frame rate. Like I don't know. And it's like I like that 2D 3D art style in general, right?
Yeah,
But it just isn't doing it for me with this trailer
that's
that I
interesting.
saw. Maybe if I saw a different trailer, it might hit different.
Yeah,
Or if I saw like an actual uncut gameplay thing. But something just looks awkward to me, and that could just be a me thing, to be fair, right? I could be completely
yeah.
wrong. Um, but that is my personal opinion. I'm pretty indifferent towards this one. It comes out in November. I'm going to forget about it,
Yeah,
to be
I think
blunt.
unfortunately that's the thing is like I looked at this and was like, oh, I'm very interested in this. I'm not gonna play this. I'm not gonna have time for it. You know, it just is what it is. Um, yeah, and I think there was another game that I thought showed really well, but I think is similarly I could see it struggling to find oxygen was Myth Force, which was the like roguelite that they said had like the Saturday morning cartoon. It's like a first person thing, cell shaded, and it's like very like Dungeons and Dragons inspired, like swords and sorcery. I think it looks really cool. It has a great art style and feel to it. I just don't know that there's space for this game this year.
I think that game. I like the concept, right? But I feel like I don't know, cheap. I know it's going for the Saturday morning cartoon look from like the '80s and whatnot, but that trailer did not do it for me either. There are so many good first person shooters out there and action games and things of the sorts. Um, that if I wanted to get like that D&D aesthetic, um, granted this game has guns in it, so like that kind of shoots it. But I feel like I would just play Tiny Tina's Wonderland. um, yeah, that game, and I could be pleasantly surprised. This game can come out and it can be the hottest thing ever. Um, but that
I don't. I,
trailer
I think
just
the thing is, I don't think
did
it
not
will.
check off my boxes.
I think I was
Yeah.
just so into the aesthetic of it, but I don't know that the gameplay is going to be there to like have that addictive quality that it needs, and like the cool vibe of it is probably not enough to sell people, right? Especially
Yeah,
when it's a stack
so
shooter.
much coming out. Yeah, like this game looks like a solid 7 out of 10.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe.
and I mean there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like
Nothing wrong with
you
that.
can have a lot of fun with
Games
a
are hard
game
to
that's a
make.
7. Yeah, but it's like it's there's got to be room for it, and I just don't see it, right? But I mean, I hope it comes together because I think it looks really cool. But it coming out this year is just like I don't know about all that, you know?
Yeah, the timing is not working out in its favor. Um, but like what else are we missing? I feel like we touched about on just about everything except like, the Dark Knight trilogy coming to the Switch.
Yeah,
That's
which
cool.
that's really cool, you know? I mean, I again, right? Like I love that franchise. I wasn't the biggest fan of Arkham Knight, which Asobi in the Discord said that he thinks it's worth revisiting. He said that he replayed it a couple years later and got back into it, but I love the original two. Arkham Asylum and City are like two of my favorite games. And I think they're games that were like obviously hugely influential. So like there's things about them that I think probably seem dated now because right, like Armo wrote in and said, "IMO, they look 10 years old because they are. Doesn't look like it's a remaster or anything." And my response to that is, I don't think it needs that. I don't think it needs to be a remaster to be worth playing. I think if you want to play these games on the go, like they hold up,
Like,
you know?
but I also feel like at this point, everybody who wanted to play those games have already played it, unless you're like a young kid whose first console is a Switch. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
And I think aside from that, though, right, there is also like the benefit of it being available for a newer audience and who maybe wasn't exposed to it the first time around. But I also think there's the argument of like folks who played it when it was contemporary, but that was a really long time ago now. and want to play it again, or like we had Andrew Valentine wrote in and said, holy shit, just remember the Arkham Collection reveal was fire. Enjoyed Asylum on 360. Always wanted to play City and Night. The combat and stealth mechanics of Asylum always just felt right. So like that's a great example, right? Of like, oh, you played Asylum and you liked it, maybe replay it, and then you get into City, right? Like I think that is a thing that in the early days of the Switch, we used to like a lot when it was like, oh, like they're bringing LA Noire to the Switch. Cool. Like I'll replay that. Yeah. Like I'll play that on the go, like I'll play this game I've played before handheld. Like there's.
But now we're a bit jaded after
yeah. And it's not the sexiest
years.
thing anymore, but I think it's still a cool announcement,
Yeah, it didn't take up too much time. It was pretty inoffensive.
No. Yeah, it's just like, hey, this is a thing now. So jump in.
It's a thing.
And it's not cloud-based, so I like that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Like, cloud-based games on the Switch are
just
the most meaningless thing. Like, you have a portable console, and you're going to release a game you can only play when you're connected to the internet? What the?
And it costs the same amount to be literally the worst way you could play the game? Great. You don't want that. So then the last two things were just, we got looks at the Mario plus Rabbids DLC and the Splatoon next Splatfest, which is ice cream themed. My attitude about both of these games is the same at this point, which is just what a missed opportunity for both of them. I know Ubisoft was struggling financially and they needed to like push Sparks of Hope out, but like there was just a report this week that apparently Nintendo tried to convince them to hold it for the next hardware generation, which seems to point to the idea that that's not that far away, which is
if they told them to hold it, then that means they're cooking.
Yeah.
It's coming sooner rather than later. Wink. But continue. I'm sorry.
No, please. But yeah, it's like that's a shame because I mean it's cool. They're putting out a free demo. There's DLC coming out. Maybe this will have a second chance because it came out at a bad time and it just got kind of drowned out. But that sucks. And I mean Splatoon 3, it feels like the crowd that likes Splatoon is still happy with Splatoon 3, but I feel like largely that game landed with a thud and that like Splatoon needs to go away or needs a shot in the arm and like it just does not feel fresh anymore. And 3 felt like 2 with more stuff, and that's just not good enough.
And the thing is, there is Splatoon 3 DLC coming out.
Yeah.
But they didn't show it. They just showed Splatfest, which I mean, cool, fine, whatever. But like, isn't that DLC supposed to come out this year? Like, am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. Yeah, Andrew Valentine wrote in and said was expecting Splatoon DLC 2 trailer and a confirmation of Persona 3 Reloaded, but otherwise pretty good direct. And they had some other thoughts. Mario Wonder will be a blast. I'm weirdly excited about Luigi's Mansion 2, and I'm confident that it'll do something interesting with the Peach game. Thanks for writing in, Andrew. That's supposed to come. It's supposed to be imminent, and I mean, we've seen very little of it, and what we have seen has been pretty nothing. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's like next to nothing in terms of like what we've seen gameplay wise. I think I've only really seen like that initial announcement trailer. I could be wrong here. I could definitely be wrong here.
I think you're right though. I mean, like I think aside from there was like the teaser and they showed off the like new environment and everything, but like it's not much, So like I definitely feel like we're overdue for more information about it. But.
Yeah, it's been 4 months since that trailer, Nintendo. But to be fair, though, this was a packed conference. Yeah. Maybe they wanted to like give it a little bit more time to breathe, not have it get overshadowed with everything else going on.
I could see that being the type of thing that they give its own direct because they need to talk about it for like more than there is time to do in a standard
30
direct.
seconds.
Like it needs more like 15, 20 minutes to like really explain what's going on and like what they're bringing to the table. So hopefully,
apparently the
soon.
apparently the second wave is supposed to be pretty meaty.
Yeah.
So we'll figure it out soon enough.
We got a Splatfest coming up, right? So there's perfect opportunity for them to talk about it after that, and and tee everybody back up for it. So I imagine you'll be hearing more about that soon.
Since we're talking about Splatfest here, so what ice cream flavor are you going with?
I'm a vanilla guy of the 3, I would say.
Pete. You should have gone with strawberries. Now I have to fight you.
Strawberry is great though. It's a great. I gotta say, I was very pleased to see that they didn't pick chocolate and they put mint chocolate chip instead because I think chocolate ice cream sucks. So very pleased by that.
Also, like the idea of just like chocolate ink, like it just looked like Dookie all over the screen.
You're probably right. Yeah, that's probably not great.
I'm sure that had to be at least a small deciding factor.
Yeah,
Like they were doing like R&D, like, sir, we can't do this.
this is no good. We can't do the Neapolitan. I'm sorry.
What about mint chocolate chip?
Done. Cut. Print. All right, on that note, that's where we're going to wrap it up for the day. Thank you guys for joining us here on another episode of Nintendo Noise. Remember, if you want to write in to the question block just like everybody else did, you can come and find links to that and so much more on flipscreen.games. You can find our Discord where we keep the conversation rolling between episodes. That's probably the best way to become a member of the community, keep in touch right into the show. We get a lot of conversation pulled over from the Discord. So if you've been a long-time listener, if you're a first-time listener, and you want to go and find a fun, inclusive place to come and talk games, I would recommend the Discord. And then, of course, you'll find links to the Patreon. You can get the show early. You can become a Patreon producer and have me read your name on the air. You can early access, all kinds of good stuff. However you choose to show your support, go and click that link. Go click on a thing. Whatever you click on helps us out a lot, right? We appreciate it. But, of course, however you choose to get involved, thanks for tuning in for another episode of the show. I've been Pete. He's been Ken. We'll see you next week.
Catch it.